Success Partners, but through some coaching and some mentorship with me and her daughter, helping her along. I mean, her daughter is about the same age. She's been able to navigate through that process of utilizing Zooms, understanding the website, how to help people enroll, and things of that nature. And folks, she's only been in the business less than a month, and she's already, not only has she fast start qualified herself, which means she got her first bonus because she had completed it in her first 20 days, but that she's also on pace to get manager done this week, because she's recruited a few folks and they are excited and are building as well. So I say all that to say that you don't have to be great when you start. You definitely have to start to become great. Back over to you, sir.
Well, Mr. Wardell, thank you so much. That was a clinic right there with just a minute. I hope everybody had their note-taking materials for that. Congratulations to you and your team. That's amazing. With that, I'm going to turn our call over to the leader of Success Partners, probably the best coach I've ever met, Mr. John Drennan. The call is yours.
All right, Matt, thank you very much. Drennan here in New Hampshire, where we had our first snowfall this weekend. And hey, first of all, I want to give kudos to Steve Beck. You know, we lost a great star of many movies in Sean Connery, and that tribute to the James Bond Sean Connery movies. I loved ending with Goldfinger. That was phenomenal. For the millennials out there, go back and watch the Sean Connery movies, James Bond movies. Also, Matt, what a great job you do getting us checked in. So thanks for that. And Jason Wardell is somebody who's got a lot of momentum and he's got people engaged. He's really using the Zooms, and that's really going to be the heartbeat of what we talk about tonight. I'm going to lay a little groundwork and then share my screen. You know, back in late spring, we in Success Partners started doing 10 live Zooms every single week, 2 a day, Monday through Friday. Most of you know about that. We did that because what we saw with COVID as people started to adjust and pivot was that a lot of teams were really blowing this business open. And the common denominator is they were doing Zooms every day and putting people on those Zooms. So we started doing that. So let me just share some results with you. First of all, we've got a lot of what I call regulars, people who are on those Zooms, almost every one of them, or maybe 7 or 8 out of 10. And many of you are on right now, and we really appreciate you for that, because obviously if you do a Zoom with 3 or 4 people, it's not the same as 13 or 14 or 20 or 30. And so it's helpful to have associates on. Now, having said that, I also know that most associates who are on regularly are also inviting regularly, and every now and then have a guest. But we also know our numbers. You typically need to connect with 5 people to get one on. Sometimes it's even closer to 10. So 5 to 10 people to get one on. But it's not a big deal to invite 10 people to a Zoom, because you can do it with text, and we're actually going to make that easier for you. So those who do come on regularly, I want to simply ask you, if you shift from maybe inviting 1 a day or 2 a day to shoot for 10 a day and start having 1 or 2 on every time you're on, watch what happens to your business. So we've had some really great supportive associates. And secondly, in the many months we've done it, we've had a lot of guests on. We estimate in an average week, we have about 10 guests on, maybe 12, and that's a total of 10 Zooms. So it's not a lot of guests when you look at the number of Zooms, but if you take every week, so we're probably having 40 to 50 guests on a month. So in the last 5 months, that's been, a couple hundred guests. Well, out of that, we've had good results of guests that come on. And sometimes it's guests that come on once, then they come back on, and maybe they come on a third time. Maybe they bring someone with them. So we do see good ratios when guests are on. We've also believed we could develop others. In other words, if we knew if we're doing this twice a day, anyone that wanted to learn how to present, whether it's on Zoom or one-on-one on Zoom or sitting down, you could pick up the language and the practice by watching different presenters present. And that has happened. And in fact, we've added 3 speakers since we started it. So we now have about 8 different people who are part of the speaking rotation. Okay, so having said that, I want to share my screen and talk with you about something that I was part of a group that talked about this today. So let me get this pulled up. So we actually had a Zoom today with those of us who have been doing the presentations. And we went through these questions. 10 Zooms a week. We asked ourselves, okay, what is it we're saying? What I mean by that is, what's the path we're following? And the answer is we're using the PowerPoint that's been available, or maybe a little bit adjusted PowerPoint with some hidden slides. So we're using the standard PowerPoints. When are we saying that? Well, from the start, we've been doing this twice a day, Monday through Friday at 12:30 and 8 p.m. Eastern. And we've been doing a membership at 12:30 and membership and opportunity at 8. Now, who is saying it? Well, we started out with people who have been executive directors, ring earners, and then we added some people. We added a couple new senior directors, Danny Godin and Matt Miller. We added Lee Perry, who's been a senior director. Bear with me, folks. We got somebody muted. Folks, can you make sure you're muted, or is there someone that can help me out there? Okay. And we want to continue adding to the people who can jump on there and do a good job and who's enthusiastic about doing the membership or the combined presentation. And then how are we saying that? And that has to do with the fact that in dealing with Zoom professionals, one thing we're hearing is people are starting to get Zoom fatigue. Just like right now, there's a PowerPoint up, you're listening to me. We're all doing this every day, being on Zoom. So we're looking at what can we do to mix it up a little bit, involve more stories, more live testimonies, go out to other people, and just kind of change up the energy of it. And then finally, who are we saying it to? And that has to do with how are we getting people on the line? And so what I want to do now is open it up to the individuals who do the presentations and just look at these questions, think about what we spoke about today. And let me maybe kick it off with this last one. Who are we saying it to? In other words, who are we getting guests, or who's getting guests on? And I know Jason Wardell, who just spoke, is using Zooms a lot. Danny Godin and her husband, Tim, have great momentum using Zooms. I know Lee Perry, you've had people lined up lately for every single Zoom. So maybe let me go out to Danny and Lee to start with, and any comments you want to make about what you're doing to get people on the Zooms, what your mindsets are around that.
Hey, John, can you guys unmute my video? Appreciate.
Yeah, and you should be able to do that.
It said
unmuted.
Ask the host.
Oh, video. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're not muted. Go ahead.
All right, cool. Hi. Yeah, it's just to kind of answer your question on the momentum is, we are literally, instead of sending a video right away, we're actually just inviting to the Zoom. And we have kind of noticed that the more personal, even though we're not doing a whole lot of interaction in the Zoom, with the person, it still feels more personal. It still feels more face-to-face than a recorded video, because we do make mistakes in the Zoom and we make fun of it and and things like that. So it is still more real. Is that the word I'm looking for? I think that's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, and I like what you said. It's more real. I know I'll come on maybe and comment on the weather, or one time I was starting a Zoom and my grandkids came in the door with lots of noise and energy, and that kind of thing makes it real, and it's just more relaxed, more fun, more of a conversation. By the way, I see Steve Beck put in the chat his guests on Thursday joined with a combo plan and home business writer, and Danny was the presenter. But thank you, Danny. And by the way, Danny, you and Tim also recently did your own private team Zoom, right? and you had about 15 people on?
Yeah, we did a private team Zoom. We had about 7 of our associates get on and 8 guests. So that was really awesome. It was just a thing that we put together. It was a blitz. We asked them to text 20 people the night before and how many we could get on.
So, and great job on that. And I wanted to bring that up for a couple of reasons. Number one, that's the idea of these Zooms. Don't just rely on 2 a day our team's doing. You want to get to the point you've got Zooms happening in your organization every day, whether it's you or someone in your team that's coming along. Well, how did they learn to do it? Because you put them on a Zoom, and then they watch Zooms and they say, okay, I can do this. And they start doing their own Zooms. So that, you know, you don't want to rely on your business on the Success Partners or the Legal Shield Zooms. You want to get to the point you've got stuff happening in your team as well to really grow it. And Lee Perry, I know you've been inviting a lot. Any comments you have on that?
Well, John, when I was having a standing briefing here in town, I invited everybody that I met here to come to the briefing. And so now I'm inviting everybody to come to the Zooms. And one of the things I've done with the folks that maybe I know them real well, whether or not they're already members, so I'm using it for members, and then people that have heard me speak frequently, is I've said, hey, we've got a little internal contest going and love to have you hop on. It's an internal contest with myself. They don't have to know that, but just trying to see how many people we can get on. And I've had several folks hop on, some members that had kind of forgotten about what all they had and what they could do with the membership. And then did have a couple of folks come on, and one has been, we've done a ton of networking together, and she actually had referred me for ID Shield to her mom until her mom passed, but she had never felt the need for Legal Shield, came on, saw how expansive the service was, and as a result of that Zoom signed up for the membership, and she has rental property as well, so she got the HBS too. So it's been great to know that we have these standing Zooms and to be able to invite to them, John.
That's great, Lee. So I'm going to share my screen here again in a second, but while I do it, I want to encourage any of you who have had a guest on that maybe joined or got the membership, go ahead and put that in the chat so people can see the different examples. And I'm going to share my screen again so I can go back to the other folks. And by the way, the folks who do the presentations, we've got 3 Millionaire Club members, myself, Timur Halligan, Ron Chambers, and then Lynette McKinley. She's stepped away for October while she and her husband have made a move from Texas to Michigan, but she'll be back now in November. And Lynn Schuster Williams, Matt Miller, Lee Perry, Danny Godin. I left somebody out. I'm not looking at the list. So about 8 people, and we'll be adding more. But I want to go to those who are part of the presentations and the things we talked about today, and just open it up to comments that you have from our discussion today.
Hey, John, Lynn Schuster Williams here. Something that came up for me today and recently is, who are we saying it to and how are we saying it? So I have 9 LOJ events every month. They're regularly scheduled LOJ events that happen in recurring succession every month. And I have a slide that I use at those that has the memberships, and we pause and talk about them during the, what I call the sponsor moment, you know. But this, about 10 days ago, I added to that slide for a 15-minute explanation of these memberships. Join me on Zoom at 12:30 Eastern, Monday through Friday. And people, you can watch people's faces kind of go, oh, right? And they're just like, wow, okay. And then while we were talking today, I had this thought about how I first heard the membership. I had had this membership for 2 years when I met you, and you invited me to hear Lorna give the presentation, and Lorna gave the presentation. I remember saying, shut the front door. What I have will do that. Right. And being like, I had no idea it would do those things, you know, because the person who sold me my membership had never explained it. So the people who are hearing us say over and over, hey, this membership's great. It's all, like the women at my LOJ events, they've heard me say it, but they've never seen a presentation. So I decided today to do a little Facebook Live type video for that group on Facebook and tell them that story of how I first saw, you may think you know what it does, but I had the membership for 2 years and had used it and saw a little presentation like this and was like, what? So it's what we're saying and who we're saying it to and the excitement and just inviting them to look and see what we saw. And what we talked about today is we want to help people have ease of invitation. So we've created some JPEG invitations, some pictures that you can use, and they are on Team Ascent Facebook group right now. They just went up there while we were on this call. And there's one for every Zoom with the speaker with their name and their picture and all of that. I hope you guys think they look really professional and that you would feel good about after, like Danny said, after you talk to somebody in person and make it personal, just having that to follow up to show them, oh, this is a real thing. And, have something to remind them what time and how to get on. So that's my thoughts, John. Back to you.
Well, thanks for sharing those, Lynn. And I made a couple notes here that I think are worth talking about. One is invite your existing audiences. And we each have different audiences, whether it's family, church, groups, hobbies, in your case, the LOJ and events that you do. But then I had a real light bulb moment. I wrote down, who shouldn't you invite? Because when you think about this, start with, well, would you want your active associates on? Well, yeah, they already know about it. They're probably using it. Would you want an inactive associate on? Would you want a former associate on? Would you want a member on it? Would you want a satisfied member on? Would you want a member on who's never used it? Would you want a member on who hasn't maybe bought the ID Shield, or they own a gun but don't own the supplement, or own a home business but don't have the supplement? Would you want a family member to come on and just see what you're doing? Who are you working with? Would you want a prospect on? Would you want a prospect's spouse or prospect on? You can go right down the list. And the question is, well, who wouldn't you want on? And the only thing I can think of to answer that would be some belligerent, negative person who would just get on and create some kind of drama. But apart from that, this is something, and I've been realizing it for myself. With our move, we've got a lot of different people that have been in and out doing different things. I've been interacting a lot with medical people after surgery, and I'm thinking, wow, I can invite people all the time to these Zooms. And so I think we collectively need to open our mind to that. We can pretty much invite every person. So other comments regarding these categories from our speakers?
Yeah, Coach Drennan, Matt Miller, Cincinnati, Ohio, background manufacturing. And again, like I mentioned earlier today, I've just been so appreciative to have the opportunity to present. And not just present, but be able to get feedback from Millionaire Club members, in addition to Mr. Chambers and, Mr. Drennan, like yourself, and Mr. Halligan. So to get that coaching has been, priceless. So it's made me a better, associate by having the opportunity to do that. And so I just thank you for the opportunity. And it's been helpful for me to be able to connect with inactive associates. I send them the link and then they see me do the presentation. It gets them to buy in again. Of like, oh yeah, that's why I love doing this. So it's been inspirational as well for inactive associates.
Yeah, great comments, Matt. And you've made great contributions. And I know your confidence has gone up, as mine has. All of ours goes up when we do this regularly. So again, we're talking about, okay, what is it we're saying? When are we saying it? Who's saying it? How are we saying it? These different components, and any additional comments from our speakers in regard to these things and what we talked about today.
Hey, Mr. Drennan, Ron Chambers here in Cincinnati, Ohio. I want to talk a little bit about the how are we saying it. in our discussion this afternoon, we talked a little bit about this and maybe looking at making it a little bit more casual as opposed to such a much of a presentation, maybe having a little more interactive or whatever. But I think that one of the things that I've seen with some successful people and even some other companies, they're really making it a social event. Now, the Ladies of Justice do a great job at this. And if we can find a way to make it a little bit more of a social event, if it's somebody you're speaking to who you have never really shared what you do with, you know, the first slide on our PowerPoint says, "Welcome to Legal Shield's, you know, open house." So maybe we're having an open house, you know, at 8 p.m. tonight. Hey, well, I'd like to have you stop by and see what we're doing. Just more casual and friendly and so forth. And I think that would help a lot of people who don't feel all that comfortable with inviting, if it is more casual and more natural or normal, you know, conversation. I think that might help them. And the other thing I want to say real quickly is I just think that we all need to really say thank you to all the people on the team who continue to show up all the time, you know, and I think you touched on that at the beginning of the call, but I just wanted to say it again too, because I know, you know, I'm one of the regular presenters, and I appreciate all you guys who show up to support me, you know, when I'm speaking, and I know the other speakers do as well. And I think if we just, as you mentioned, Mr. Drennan, maybe try to take our invitations up, keep it short, simple, social, friendly, and just do more of it. And, my mentor, one of my mentors, Tony Petrell, used to say less to more people. So those are my comments, Mr. Drennan.
Yeah, thanks so much, Ron. And those that don't know, Ron Chambers, Millionaire Club member, working on his second million, really knows his stuff. And I know that after talking today as speakers, we're going to look at what can we do to take out, and we each want to be our own personalities, but we can each look at taking some slides out by hiding them and then calling on people. And by the way, for those who aren't doing the presentation now, but you're in attendance, be ready to share a quick story. When I say quick, it's got to be quick so that we can remain quick. But I know a lot of you who are watching this right now do come on the Zooms, and you might even want to just put in the chat privately to whoever the speaker is. If you need me, I got a 30-second membership story. Okay, looking at the chat here, Phyllis Martin said several weeks ago, had a guest that attended Zoom, signed up with combo plan and home business supplement. John and Yoko, okay, that's whoever that is. I had a guest who had the legal membership get on after watching 1230 and then get the ID Shield member. Okay. The other thing I want you to feel free to chat here is any ideas you have, anyone who's watching, ideas in regard to what we're doing 10 times a week. And by the way, we are going to keep doing our same schedule that we've been doing through the end of the year, and then just step back like we do every year and look and say, okay, do we want to change anything about what we're doing? But with the last 2 months of the year coming up, more than anything, we want to see each of you focus on invitations to the Zooms. The other thing about inviting someone to something always gives you reason to go back to them. Always. Because you can go back and say, hey, were you able to get on? Were you not able to? What'd you like best? Were you able to catch any of it? You can kind of play dumb with them as you're asking those questions, just to sort out, you know, were they on or not? Why not? If not, and where are they at? Okay, other speakers with any other comments?
Hey, John, Tim has something to say real quick.
Hey, John, Tim Godin, Greeley, Colorado. You know, we have the who and the what and the where. I'd like everyone to constantly remember the why we invite people to these Zooms. It's because it's duplicatable. That means anyone in this business can do this business. We've got millionaires that can do the best presentation ever, but instead of sitting down and spending 30 or 40 minutes explaining it, they follow the system. So that's what has made this really successful. And we've personally seen the growth just following the system.
You know, that's a great comment. And it's also, You know, in this business, how often do we hear people say, when I got in Legal Shield, I was afraid to get up and talk in front of anybody? That's most people. Some people don't want to share their name in a group, let alone get up and speak or get on a Zoom and speak in front of 10 or 15. But it all starts with coming on like you have tonight. It all starts with coming on the stretch call and just making comments, and then maybe doing a testimony on Zoom and practicing and building up and watching others. Where you can get to a point for you to come on and do a Zoom is nothing. And then you can do them in your team, like I talked about earlier. And so it's really a way to develop. And so Tim's absolutely right, because anyone can do this. Number one, because anyone can invite to the existing Zooms, but two, most people can get to a point to just jump on a Zoom and do a presentation and grow their business that way as well. So great comments. Looking at the chat, good comments here, folks. Amazon turned the retail business upside down. Yeah, they did. AOL back in the day, sending out CDs to every household. We're now zooming into every household. Okay, anything else from the speakers? All right, well, next, I want to see if anybody wants to come off mute, kind of what I just spoke about, who has been using, actually, I'm not going to do this. I just checked the time. We're going to pick this up on the stretch calls, but I want to let you know that on Wednesday of this week on our training Zoom, we're actually going to take this to the next step and get where the rubber meets the road and talk about some of the how-tos. Lynn Schuessler Williams mentioned the JPEG invitations on Team Ascent. We're going to show those and get into that more. We're going to talk about some things we're doing with the calendar and just ways to maybe help enhance your ability to invite and how to do that. So that'll be Wednesday. Speaking of Wednesday, let me just remind all of us of our weekly things to be aware of and to know about. First of all, on the corporate level, every Sunday and then Monday morning is the live leadership show. If you miss it, you can go back and watch it throughout the week. How do you watch it? Go to your newsletter and the link's on there. Where's the newsletter? Well, go to LS Engage and you can read the weekly newsletter, and you want to review that every week so you know what's going on. That's corporate. Team-wise, well, let me back up. Corporate's also got Zooms as well, and you get those LS Engage messages every day, as I do, but you can also go to LegalShieldCalendar.com. Then as a team, we've got our 10 Zooms. We also have our morning stretch call. That's a call, it's live, it's a way to connect Monday through Friday. We've got tonight, obviously, every Sunday evening, and then Wednesday, our training Zoom at 9:30 Eastern. All of that's on the calendar at successpartnerscalendar.com. And as far as tomorrow's Zooms, we have tomorrow's Lynn Schuessler Williams at 12:30, and then Danny Godin tomorrow evening. So there you go, to follow up on what we talked about tonight. I want to challenge everybody, put those invitations out tonight and tomorrow morning to start getting people on the Zooms, and let's see that ramp up as we go forward. So with that, we do like to end our Zooms with the video. On Sunday, something more inspirational. On Wednesday, something more in the training vein. Well, tonight, when you watch this video that we came across, I think on Facebook, but as you're watching this, ask yourself, how does this remind you of maybe an overbearing associate and maybe a prospect who's becoming intimidated? So see if you can see that in this video, and Steve, back to you.
You know I can be found living all alone, hanging on around. Oh, please, telephone, don't be cruel. You're all that's true. around. Oh, the future looks bright instead. Don't be cruel to a heart that's true. I don't want no other love. Baby, it's just you I'm thinking of. You know I can be found standing all alone. You can come around. Oh, please, please, telephone. Don't be cruel to a heart that's true. I don't want no other love. Baby, it's just you I'm thinking of. Yeah, Ollie. Take it away, Ollie. You know I can't be found living all alone. You can come around. Oh, please, please, telephone. Don't be cruel to a heart that's true. To a heart that's true. Yeah, yeah. I said yeah, 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 yeah. Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
So there you go. Don't be the overbearing associate. Be professionally persistent. Take care, everyone.